today we're going to be looking at valence electrons and ions. So how can we have a charged atom formed? So how can we get an atom or an atom to become an ion to be positive or negatively charged? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to answer the pre-activity questions. What's the difference between an atom and an ion? That's in your notes from last chapter or even the chapter before. Okay, it's directly your notes. We're going over the difference between atoms and ions. And then you're going to say what are the two types of ions and what are their charges. All right, so that again comes out of your notes. So these two questions will be out of your notes. Now, when it comes time for making your board diagrams, this is the same thing that we did last chapter when you had to figure out how many electrons it has, and then figure out from there where it's going to be your valence electrons. So, as we are looking at the board diagram and figuring it out, we first have to figure out the atomic number. The atomic number for magnesium is going to be 12. So therefore that tells me there's 12 protons, and there's going to be 12 electrons. So, when it says, what's the total charge on this atom? Well, we have 12 positives and 12 negatives. So overall charge is going to be 0, okay? Because your positives equal your negatives. Your positive protons equal your negative electrons. So our overall charge for this atom is going to be 0. So we're going to fill in our electrons. So we're going to move 2 electrons to our first shell, because that's the max it can hold. We're going to move our 8 electrons to the second orbital here, because that's the max it can hold. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need one more. So now we have 2 here, 8 there for a total of 10. So therefore we're going to have 2 valence electrons. Okay, so now you're done with magnesium. Now we're going to create an ion. This is an atom of magnesium because its overall charge is 0. Now we're going to create an ion of magnesium. So it says, take away 2 electrons from the outer shell, so there are not more, I should reword that. There are not any more electrons in the outer shell. Draw the new Bohr model and fill in the chart. Okay, so I gotta correct my English there. So the atomic number is still the same. Still gonna be 12. Protons doesn't change. That still is gonna be the same. Electrons, we can't figure that out yet. Okay, because now we're taking away electrons. So we're gonna start. We're gonna put our 2 electrons in our first orbital there. We're gonna put our 8 electrons in our second. Okay, so I put my 8. Now, I'll just put my valence electrons here to see. It normally has 12, but it told me to do what? It said take away 2 electrons from the outer shell. So I'm going to take my 2 electrons away. I'm going to take them back. Take away 1, take away 2. When I take away those 2, how many electrons do I now have? I have 2 here and 8 here. So how many total electrons do I now have? I have 10. Okay? Now, what is the overall charge? I have 12 protons and 10 electrons. So 12 positives and 10 negatives was my overall charge. Plus 2, because I have more positives than negatives. Okay, so you could say that you take positive 12 minus 10 to give you a plus 2 charge. All right, now that we have figured out that it has a +2 charge, again, because we have 12 protons and only 10 electrons. So you have more positives than negatives, so you have a +2 charge. Now to ask you the question, magnesium is on the what side of the periodic table? This is going to be the left side, which means that it's a metal. This type of element likes to form, and you're going to use your highlight feature. Is it going to form a cation, which is positive, or anion that's negative? Well, as we saw from the previous slide here, it has a +2 charge. So it's going to be a cation. So we're going to highlight that for our answer. Okay, so one of our answers was left. The other one was right. Now, for the next one, it says for fluorine to do the Bohr diagram. So we're going to do the same thing. Figure out this atomic number for fluorine, which is going to be 9. So there's going to be 9 protons, and since it tells us we're not going to be doing anything to this, you're going to have 9 electrons. So I'm going to fill my electrons. So I put 2 in my inner. And now, will I have enough to fill 8 here? No. So I'm going to have my valence electrons here of 7. Okay? Now, since my protons equal my electrons, because I didn't take any electrons away in this case, I just said draw a Bohr diagram, positive equal negative, so my overall charge, because it's an atom, is 0. Now, when they ask you on the next one, it says add one more electron to the, let's just say outer shell, so that there are a total of 8 electrons in the outer shell. Draw the new Bohr model. All right, so we know the atomic number is 9. We know the protons are 9. But the electrons are going to be different. All right, so we know we're going to have our 2 on the inside. We know we have our 7 on the outside here. Okay, so right now we have an atom. We don't have an ion, we have an atom. But it tells us to do what? It says add 1 more electron. So I'm going to add 1 more electron to my outer shell here. So I'm just going to take a spot there. Now, when I do that, how many electrons do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So therefore, I now have 10 electrons. So what's the charge on this atom? I have 9 protons, so I have a +9, and I have 10 electrons, so I have -10. +9 and a -10 tells me my overall charge is -1, because I have one more negative than I do positive. So therefore, my overall charge is going to be -1. This is now an ion. This one was an atom, because our overall charge is 0. Once we changed it, the number of electrons, it now became an ion. So, fluorine is on the right side of the periodic table, and that means it's in nonmetal, and that means All right, sorry about that. My recording cut off just as soon as I was getting ready to finish here. All right, so let's finish up. So we said that fluorine's on the right side of the periodic table, which means that it is a nonmetal. This type of element likes to form cations or anions. Well, if we look back, we had a -1 charge, so therefore it's going to be an anion. So we're going to highlight anion for our answer there. We'll change this so that it's not underlined. And it's black, and then we'll highlight it in orange there. Okay, so fluorine's on the right side of the periodic table, which means that it's a nonmetal. This type of element likes to form anions. The last thing that you're going to do on your own is you're going to fill in and highlight your correct answers. So you're going to fill in where there's a line and highlight when you have to choose. Okay, so highlight if you have to choose, type it if you have to fill in the line. Once you're done, make sure you hit the turn in button so that you can get credit for this activity.